What I've come to call natural digital symmetry art centers around isolating and combining different aspects of images of natural phenomena, animals, plants, fungi, space, crystals, then exposing them to a series of methods and techniques whereby the symmetry is maintained throughout, and each asset is often lost to one another. You can sort of think of it as using photos of nature as a painter would use paint, and you can pretty much use any photo altering application for this. You just have to follow the axioms, as it were, the principles. I personally use an app called Pixlr, though I wouldn't recommend it. This video is a bit of a general overview of the art form, but in time I plan to do tutorials on individual aspects. As you can see, the progress of the art form over time has led to a bit of a layering of techniques, but I will try to start from the most basic ones and then go from there. So the first thing you'll need is your asset files, which can be, well, anything really. You can range from anywhere from a single file that you just take pieces from and then just keep on taking pieces from that same one and adding it to the larger structure, or you can compile anywhere from like 2 to 10 to, I think I've done like 30. Yeah, at a certain point there's like a lot of things within the artwork itself that are interesting enough that you just keep taking from the art piece itself and the assets that you already used. I usually don't go north of like 20 per piece. I'd say the average is closer to like 10, 15. The first thing I'm going to demonstrate is the base most principle that essentially led me to devise the rest of the art form, which is taking a single image. I think this one should do, even if it's a bit small. Yeah, we'll just blow it up. Taking a single image, and then once you have it stable and in a locked frame, which is to say that the basemost floor of the program and the asset that you're using are locked to the same, like to be one, essentially. They're locked together, which in this application at least is displayed by that icon. You then duplicate the image, flip it, and then use a blend mode on it in order to emphasize symmetrical features. So from that image that we just had a moment ago, manifests an interesting symmetry pattern. So there's a bunch of different ways you can go about establishing that principle. You can just use different blend modes. Sorry, I gotta actually turn that one on to see it. There you go. You can just use different blend modes, or, and this method comes up a lot when you're developing a piece, you can, instead of duplicating the layer and then having the two layers interact with each other in a way that manifests symmetry, you can do it in a bit more of a manual way. So let's just delete the top layer so we're left with the bottom one again. Now say that I really liked this side, and this is the side that I wanted to be on both aspects of it. I would use the cutout tool of this application, and then, so we take the half that we want. How do I know I got half? I usually just try to overestimate it, and then like about there. I know that I've at least got half of the image in the right. So at this point, you actually do the thing that you did before, which is duplicating the image. But after you've duplicated the image, you flip it on its axis. Now, evidently, it's not symmetrical because it was larger than a half. So by flipping it, it overlaps. But if you go over here and use the blend mode feature, you can make it symmetrical. Now before I click this, it will make half the image appear as transparent at first. It's a visual bug that occurs whenever you're trying to use a blend mode when there's nothing below the image that you're blending, but it doesn't actually affect once you hit merge. There we go. Very cool. Yeah, that's the basemost principle of it. From here, there's a lot of different paths forward. For instance, I could take and emphasize different pieces of this and put them in different aspects of it, or I can add other assets to it, or I could isolate aspects of this and then change their color relative to the whole, or, okay, so for instance, let's add a new image to this. Let's choose an image of fire. Okay, so we'll make the canvas invisible for a moment. and then choose an angle of symmetry that I want to approach for this one. So we'll go about there, and then once we have that, we will hit this button merge, which just essentially allows it to become one with the basemost sheet, as I mentioned earlier. And then we duplicate, flip, and merge. And then suddenly some interesting phenomena show up. So actually, when you don't have a canvas piece, you can just make one, like in the other uploads on this channel that are essentially just time lapses. You could take just an empty layer and then color it. And then all of a sudden you would have a foundation that is just sort of built on the assets that you put in as you put them in. But we're not doing that right now. So let's make the background most thing visible again, and then here's where things get interesting. If you take into account different modes of blending, you can get some pretty interesting things manifesting.